Good evening, everybody. Tonight we will read Chapter 2, page 17. Kerry woke up at 04:30 as soon as her alarm went off. She sighed and hit the off button as she slid reluctantly out of bed. The mattress compensated for her weight shift, so Connor didn't wake up. She gave him an envious glance as she dragged herself into the bathroom to take a shower. Once she had dressed for work, she went downstairs quietly and grabbed her service weapon, unlocking the safety on it and strapping the belt on. She had left it in the drawer like she always did, knowing that Aedan and Patrick both knew where it was, but that neither could unlock the safety because they didn't have her fingerprint or the authorization key. She opened the pod and looked for some kind of leftover food she could take in the car with her when she heard a noise. She closed the pod slowly and glanced at the security alarm. It was on, and the motion detector was reading green, meaning no one but the four of them and Quigley was in the house. It was probably Quigley making the noise, but since when did he get up at 0500? She moved toward the noise, hand unconsciously hovering over her service weapon, just in case. It was coming from the toy chest, just around the corner in the back hallway. She rounded the corner and found little Aedan arched over the toy chest, rummaging through it and looking very frustrated. "Aedan, honey, what are you doing up this early?" Aedan turned to her, looking like the cat who had swallowed a canary, and promptly said, "Nothing," his hand moving instinctively behind his back. Kerry smiled. "Well, nothing has dragged you out of bed when you didn't even want to go to school yesterday." She walked over to him and put her hand on his head, ruffling his newly trimmed red hair. Connor must have taken him to get a haircut, she thought, because the last time she saw him, his hair was much longer. "Want to tell me what's going on?" she asked him as she shut the toy chest and sat on it. Aedan joined her, sitting next to her and dangling his feet from the edge of the chest. He brought his hand out from behind his back and revealed a knee pad. "I couldn't find the other one," he said. It was then that Kerry noticed that he had stuck elbow pads under his clothes and was wearing shin guards. His pants exposed his ankles as she sat, and she saw the ankle padding. "Honey, what do you need those for? The last time I checked, the school didn't allow skateboarding on top of the desks," she said humorously. "It's not for a skateboard," he answered, and dropped the knee pad on the floor. "Want to tell me what's going on?" she asked again, although she already knew. Aedan brought his leg up and rolled his pants up to reveal the shin guards, but then he showed her his knee. It was covered in bruises, and he had a bandage not fully covering what looked like a nasty scrape. She could only imagine what his pants had looked like after all this. "Kids at school," he said. "Do they hurt you, Aedan?" she asked him softly. "At recess?" Aedan nodded. "They make me do stuff, and when I don't, they fight me." She sighed. "You told this to Daddy, right?" "Uh-huh," Aedan said. "And he said that Miss Gregory is going to take care of it, but I don't believe him." "Why not, buddy?" "Because nothing stops them." He put his leg down. "They're just going to keep doing it. They do it where the teachers can't see, and I'm not fast enough to run away." He said the last in a very ashamed tone, as if he was embarrassed to tell her at all. Kerry saw his ears turn red. "You don't have to be embarrassed, Aedan," she told him, putting her arm around his shoulders and hugging him closer to her. But, he started, wondering whether he should say anything. He decided he would. "You're so good at fighting bad guys." Kerry smiled. "I'm a lot older than you," she told him. "I've had lots of time to practice. How old are you, Aedan?" 6, he answered, knowing that she already knew. "But they're 6 too. Well, Mary's 7. But they're younger than you, and they can beat me." Kerry's smile turned a bit lopsided. "You've told them no before, haven't you? But they still make you do crazy stuff." "Uh-huh." Kerry thought for a moment. "Daddy and I are going to have another talk with Miss Gregory and see what we can do for you. But until then," she looked at her watch. She had about an hour to get to work. Traffic was bound to be horrible if she waited, but this was important. "Come here, buddy, and take those elbow pads and shin guards off." He obeyed and followed her into the kitchen after taking his pads off. "Okay, now what do they do? Show me." "They grab my head," he said. Kerry got down on her knees and said, "Go ahead, show me." Aedan at first was a bit nervous, but he realized what his mom was trying to show him. He grabbed her head the same way they did. "Okay, now Aedan, listen closely. When someone has your head like this, look at what they're exposing. Their whole tummy's exposed. See that?" She tickled him. Aedan giggled and nodded. "Yeah." "So what can you do there?" "I can hit 'em," he said excitedly. "Right. Yes, you can. Now how do we hit people again?" He let go of her head and extended his fist in the air, straight and strong, with his thumb on the outside. Like this. Very good. How many that are against you? 5. That's a lot of kids, isn't it? Uh-huh. Well, after you get one down, they might stop bugging you. But if they don't, you run to a place where a teacher can see, okay? Run as fast as you can. And Aedan, she said, looking at her son in the eye, there's nothing wrong with crying, honey, but these kids don't know that. And if you cry in front of them, they might just keep up what they're doing. So you be strong. Show 'em some O'Malley strength. He nodded and smiled. That's my boy, she said. If you feel like crying any place but in front of them, go right ahead. And when do we hit people? Only when they hit me first, he said. But they already hit me first. So can I go ahead and hit them? No, Aedan. Only when they make the first move at that minute. Okay? Okay, he said, disappointed. If you came to school, you could hit them for me. She laughed. If I did that, they'd think you're fair game when I'm not there. She tried to put it in a way he could understand. Aedan nodded in comprehension. So I should go to a place kinda close to a teacher and play there, until they come for me and make me do stuff? Then I can hit 'em. She chuckled. That's right, but only if they hit you first, Aedan. And make sure you run as soon as you can. Fight till you can run, and then run toward the teacher. He nodded, understanding his instructions. All right, buddy, I've got to go to work. Did Daddy make any food yesterday besides spaghetti? Eggs and bacon yesterday morning before school, and I ate lunch at school, he informed her, as if she didn't already know that. Any chance there are leftovers? She asked hopefully. Me and Patrick ate all of it. Patrick and I, she corrected with a sigh. So much for breakfast. Unless... She opened up the pod and discovered fresh bagels from the grocery store. Perfect, she said with a smile. Okay, I'll cut this and then you can stick it in the toaster, okay? He nodded and followed her at a close distance. Can I come to work with you? He asked as he watched her slice the bagel. She handed him the pieces and put it into the toaster. I'm sorry, Aedan, but you've got to go to school. Other kids go to work with their parents. Cindy went with her dad on Tuesday. Just one day, please, he begged. Get the cream cheese out of the pod, please, she requested, nodding toward the large machine that blended in with their cabinets. He pulled out a specific drawer with only dairy products in it. When he came back, he looked up at her with puppy dog eyes. The toaster popped, and she got the double tongs out of the drawer and handed them to Aedan. He picked up both pieces, setting them on a plate. Kerry started putting cream cheese on them, and then said to him, Get some foil for this, please. He dutifully got the foil and put it next to the bagel. As she wrapped up the bagel, she looked down at his unrelenting gaze and sighed. It's too dangerous, buddy, she answered him truthfully. You've watched Daddy work. That's sort of like going to work. But he just sits at the computer and types. It's not fun to watch him work. It's only fun to read stuff he's written. Connor had written a lot of short books for Aedan and Patrick. They both loved to read his work. His adult books, of course, went over their heads, but they both enjoyed reading the children's books, poems, and short stories. I wish I could take you with me, but I want you to stay safe. I won't get hurt. I'll be real quiet and sit in the car and watch while you fight the bad guys on the street. She chuckled. You've been watching crime-fighting shows on the web, haven't you? Maybe, he answered, suddenly looking guilty. Only the age 6+ ones. Well, that's good, she said, giving him a kiss on the forehead. Nothing over that rating, okay? He nodded, and she said, I'll see you later, honey. I'll try to make it home for dinner. He sighed, dissatisfied with his failure at procuring a trip to her workplace. When you come home, will you tell me stories about cases? He asked, settling for a consolation prize. Sure, honey, she said with a smile. Ask Daddy for stories, too. He can tell them very, very well. He also tended to embellish a bit. Okay, Aedan said as she opened the door to the garage. I love you. Love you too. Tell your brother that I'll watch his penguin project tonight. Aedan nodded and watched her go. And we'll read more tomorrow.